That right there, ladies and gentlemen, was just footage that you watched of an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer illegally and unconstitutionally shoving a man violently, a U.S. citizen violently, to the ground. Ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen, ridiculous. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this infuriates me. It really does, ladies and gentlemen. It is completely against the law. Is an immigration and customs enforcement or an ICE agent allowed to violently shove somebody to the ground? The answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, is no. An immigration and customs enforcement agent is not allowed to violently shove a civilian. Neither use of force, their use of force must be objectively necessary and reasonable, which clearly, as you saw from the reporting video, that it wasn't. The minimum non-deadly force necessary and only when truly needed, with a strong emphasis on de-escalation, ladies and gentlemen, and excessive force is strictly prohibited and investigated, while force is permitted when resisting arrest. Violent shoving, especially without clear justification of imminent danger or extreme resistance, generally violates DHS policy, which prioritizes minimizing force and protecting life. For example, ladies and gentlemen, we can see ICE use of force policy, which we are about to get in, reasonable and necessary. About to get into reasonable and necessary. Agents can use force only if, ladies and gentlemen, they reasonably believe it's necessary, but it must be the minimum non-deadly force required according to Title 8, ladies and gentlemen, Section CFR 287.8 and DHS policy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into de-escalation. Agents are trained to de-escalate situations and use less lethal methods first, as outlined in DHS policy and agency guidelines. Prohibition and use of prohibition and of abuse, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get into that. Physical abuse and coercion are forbidden, noted the Cornell Law School, Lil, and NPR. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to get into excessive force, using force beyond what's objectively reasonable to make an arrest or cause unnecessary harm is permitted states CBS and NPR. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens if force is misused? We're about to get into that. Violations of these policies are investigated, and disciplinary actions can be taken if substantiated according to the Trace and NPR, which unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that none of that's gonna occur in this corrupt BS administration. In a sense, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, while ICE agents, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, can use force to overcome resistance, violently shoving a civilian would likely be considered excessive unless it's a truly minimal, objectively reasonable reason to immediate serious resistance, which is a high bar to meet, as stated by NPR and Cornell Law, LII. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, that is going to do it for this first legal breaking reporting video analysis update for the evening of Sunday, January 11, 2026. If you did enjoy this legal breaking reporting video analysis update, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy for more legal breaking news that you need to know about and more, and I will have much more to come very, very soon in about an hour and a half.